G'day guys and gal, the Custodian Guard are just so good, man. Their aesthetic, attitude, and complete lack of nonsense when dealing with all the tomfoolery of 40k is very refreshing. This is why they are one of my armies of choice. They are also incredibly powerful, able to cut down hordes of demons and even Astartes with ease. It's even theorized that a squad of them could even cut down a Primarch. But is all of that just nonsense? We have multiple moments in the lore of Custodians getting bodied by rank and file Astartes, Xenos, and even being described as inferior to Space Marines in various ways. This has created the question of just how powerful is a Custodian really? Are they actually the demigod warriors, second to none? Or are they super overrated, just being another type of superhuman? It's an interesting question that has an interesting answer. Before we get started, there's nothing quite like good value. It's just so yeah. And cheers to today's sponsor Manscaped. You're about to get turkey slapped with the best damn value there is, the Platinum Package 4.0. This male grooming and hygiene package comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, the hero product of Manscaped that lets you shave your family jewels without risk of a little snippy snip, a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner that smells refined and very classy, a body wash that does the same thing except, you know, it's for your body, a roll-on deodorant which we all know is superior to spray-on, then there is the classic ball deodorant and ball reviver, which absolutely deletes smelly wiener. Not to mention the nose and ear hair trimmer, a travel bag, and some lovely boxes, which I actually am wearing right now because they're the comfiest pair there is. All of this by itself is worth over $400, but in the package, it's down to $230. But wait, there's more. Using my link and code Majorkill below, you'll get an additional 20% off and free international shipping. I don't know the exact number or maths that will give you, but I do know value when I see it. Cheers to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Today we will analyze the Custodians to determine just how powerful they really are, and also why there seems to be such a massive discrepancy in their lore regarding their actual level of power. Let's get into it. The Custodian Guard were not a fully fleshed out faction in their own right up until relatively recently. They were the mysterious guardians of the Emperor, rarely seen and barely fought. During a time period where GW was pushing the shit out of Space Marine models at the expense of literally every other faction, because you know, money, they couldn't just have a better version of a Space Marine cramping their style. Hence in the earlier lore, as far as just after 2010, they were considered the equal of a Space Marine. Differing in weapons and fighting style, however, there is literally a quote in the lore that goes something like, "No one would dare say which of the two superhumans were deadlier in combat," implying that they were more or less equal. They were also said to be of equal size to a Space Marine, with the Astartes even claiming that they have identified fatal flaws in the Custodians' fighting style. That being that Custodes don't know how to fight in a squad, and thus are inferior to Space Marines that depend upon their squads. Argul Tal had it described as Space Marines being wolves in a pack, with Custodians being lone lions. Not to mention that in the first Fall of Prospero book, the Thousand Sons are able to delete Custodians with ease, and even say out loud, "Lol, these guys aren't so tough." So what the fuck happened? How did they go from these Space Marine offshoots, arguably inferior, to the god-tier Doomslayer warriors that we see in Master of Mankind, and in other lore since? Well, out of lore, the writers came together and decided that having two equally powered superhumans was fucking retarded, so they chose to make the Custodians a quality over quantity faction, quietly retconning them to become absolute beasts. Ra Endymion was able to consistently kill any enemy Space Marine within just 3 hits. The first 2 were to learn the enemy's attack pattern, and the third was the killing strike. He could have killed them in 2 or maybe even 1 strike, but it would have robbed him of his chance to continually learn about the enemy and how to best kill them. Contrast this with Aquilon, who evenly match Argul Tal in their sparring sessions, and it's a bit of a wild difference. Their fatal flaw of not being able to fight in a squad effectively was also kind of retconned to be that they were so confident in their own abilities and the abilities of their squad mates that they were able to each give each other space and cover each other's blind spots with such perfect and subtle efficiency that it looked like a flaw, but it was actually a massive strength. So before we move on to their current in-lore power, old lore had Custodian power as equal to that of a Space Marine, arguably better in 1v1 scenarios, but worse on a battlefield. It also had them very vulnerable to psychic attack, in which they relied on their Sister of Silence warriors to protect them from getting deleted by wackos shooting lightning out of their assholes. Current lore, though it still does contain some bizarre examples of Custodians getting sodomized, is significantly different. Firstly, let's skim over their creation to provide some context. Custodians don't have gene seed, they don't have extra organs, they are forged into superhumans at the very base code of their DNA, meaning whilst the Astartes have 2 hearts and 3 lungs, a Custodian still outperforms them with only 1 heart and 2 lungs, because the organs they do have are so advanced and efficient that having extra is just totally redundant. A nice little side effect of this is that the Custodian guards are normally proportioned. They don't have the giganticism effect that makes Space Marines so ugly. Well, Space Marines other than the Blood Angels. Their bodies are more or less perfect, each of them labelled a work of art never to be repeated, with even pretty fatal organ damage not doing much to slow them down. So that's their basic creation process. Let's look at their actual power. Durability first, as what's the point of being able to kill stuff super well if you can't handle a kick to the balls? Although it might seem like a Custodian is more vulnerable to damage without backup organs, they can suffer organ rupture and cuts without too much drama. During the war in the Webway, a Custodian had their head blown open and a decent amount of his brain matter went with it. However, he continued to fight, not really realizing he was already dead. I mean, the fucking mad lad was actually able to evacuate with his fellow warriors, and despite looking a bit worse for wear and not being very talkative, he still stood up straight and continued on. It all just feeds into their bodies being super advanced. If you stab a Custodian in the heart, there's a decent chance that they will be able to clot the wound and survive. You'd have to use the opportunity of a heart stab to cut off their head or do something more permanent. Their war gear is also wildly advanced, using Auroramite, which is significantly more powerful than Space Marine Ceramite. For context, the Emperor used Auroramite in his battle plate. Yes, I know that didn't stop a naked World Eater from punching a hole in an armoured Custodian, but sometimes the lore is a bit retarded, and that's okay. Newer Custodians also have some innate resistance to Psykers and demons. They cannot be possessed or mind controlled, and Psykers have difficulty turning their powers upon the Custodians, even without their Sister of Silence companions. Custodians have tanked volleys of bolter fire, can cut bullets out of the air, can survive horrific bodily injury, and have a near limitless pain tolerance. Not to mention they are demons in melee combat, so if you want to kill one, you really have to kill it. What about their combat prowess and weapons? The Custodians specialize in close to mid-range combat, however they do have specialist warriors for longer range engagements. There is very little in the galaxy that can beat a Custodian in a duel. Even Nathaniel Garro, arguably in the top 4 Space Marine duelists to ever live, only bested one in a sparring cage due to the arrogance of the Custodian. The entire duel, Garro said he was on the defense, barely able to parry as each block sent painful jots up his entire body. The fact that all of their weapons, both Sentinel blades or Guardian spears, double as high caliber bolt guns just makes things more spicy. Imagine you are dueling a golden god of war, barely able to survive. Then the golden sex lord just takes a step back and cum blasts you in the face with his weapon's gun. A common Custodian tactic is also to charge you, spear first while firing, meaning you either die, your friends die, or you are riddled with bullet holes even before you encounter the god tier warrior in melee combat. There's also the issue of you getting stabbed and then while you're impaled you get shot as well. Either way you die. Custodians will often also carry special knives that can cut through anything, so even if you manage to somehow disarm a Custodian, or they've just thrown their spear and killed your best mate, you still have to deal with some more hectic shit. And this is just the standard Custodian, not talking about their Alaris Terminators who are just disgustingly powerful and kind of unkillable, or their Dreadnoughts, who have all the grace and speed of a Custodian with the power and durability of a Dreadnought. By this point, it's pretty obvious that the Custodians are way more powerful than Space Marines. I would argue that what a Guardsman is to an Astartes and Astartes is to a Custodian. There are exceptions to this rule, with a very few select Space Marines that could hold their own or even beat a Custodian. These Space Marines include Sigismund, who was the greatest Astartes swordsman to ever live, Abaddon, who is so juiced up on warp steroids that he's almost Primarch level now, Tyberos, who is, yeah, just fucking look at him, and Asterian Malok, who, if the rumors are to be believed, could even be a Custodian himself. Also, Sevatar could probably manage it. He is a very cheeky boy, that one. However, does their ease of killing Space Marines extend towards other enemies? After all, Custodians themselves have said that killing Space Marines feel natural, like their preferred prey. Can they kill Orcs, Tyranids, and Eldar just as easily? Well, yes, but no. When a massive Astartes force was taking on an even more massive greenskin Wah, the Orcs were winning. Horus, Rogel, Mortarion and their Astarte legions were losing and on the brink of defeat. The Emperor and 1,000 custodians teleported into the battle and almost instantly killed the Orc war boss and 100,000 of their elite warriors. The custodians themselves only lost 3 men. So yes, Custodes fuck orcs like I fuck my anime body pillow. The orc's crude, bulky strength-based fighting style is perfect for the Custodes' liquid-flowing combat that uses enemy size and momentum against them. The Tyranids follow a similar style. In a very recent bit of lore, a small Custodian squad were able to take on the might of a Tyranid splinter fleet, numbering about 1 million Tyranids. They did this by walking up to the top of a volcano and using a small choke point. And I shit you not, they literally just fucking killed all the Nids, including the Swarm Lord. There was only 6 Custodians and one of them actually survived the battle. Now, this is a bit hectic, but I'm not mad about it. Custodians are my boys. But it really does show that they excel against horde-based enemies and cannon fodder. Each Custodian can turn themselves into a meat grinder with the speed and strength of spinning their spear, hence why they are so good at crowd control and are hard to overrun. The Elder, however, makes significantly more challenging opponents, as they are the opposite of a Horg-Zerg bumrush faction. Like the Custodes, they are a quality over quantity thing. When a group of Elder Harlequins broke into the Imperial Palace in an attempt to give the Emperor a message, they were able to cut through and quite easily kill a number of Custodians. Now this lore isn't super great. Sure, if it was a solitaire leading them, then okay, but it wasn't. They should have been trading blow for blow, or the Harlequins just been able to dodge and avoid the Custodes, not just one-shot them. But if we give them the benefit of the doubt, we can just attribute it to the fact that the Custodes that were killed were new and had never fought the Elder or Harlequins before. It did end with all the Harlequins dead and one captured, so it wasn't a total shit show, but it does highlight that a Custodian's preferred enemy is a straightforward one, not a slippery gypsy. In a similar vein to this, Custodians have a bit of difficulty with Dark Elder. One time in the lore they were able to fight off the Drukhari, however the Dark Elder were able to kidnap a number of them, not something that is super easy to do. Overall though, no. Custodians aren't just a one-trick Space Marine killing pony. They are effective against any and all foes as they are fundamentally extremely versatile and adaptable. They pretty much never lose any battle or war, with the Imperium declaring certain war zones as a victory as soon as a group of Custodians decide that will be their war zone of choice. This sounds dumb, but I kid you not, the Custodians always win. Except the war in the Webway, but considering that was 10,000 Custodians versus countless millions of hypercharged demons backed up by Chaos Marines and Titan Legions, we'll give them a pass. But what about Primarchs? Can our boys take down the Emperor's sons? Maybe, but not in a fair 1v1. The only Custodian who could potentially 1v1 a Primarch would be Constantine Valdor, the original Captain General. He was able to briefly fight Alpharius to a standstill, with both warriors thinking that they could beat the other, and he even beat Horus in a sparring match. However, this was a newly reunited Horus, not Prime Horus. Single squads could also potentially manage it. When Rogel Dawn made an offhand threat that he would have to hurt a small squad of Custodians, they replied, "We would like to see you try, my lord," and were pretty confident that they could take him down. Likewise, a few of the Custodians that accompany Guilliman in the current era are also pretty confident that they could kill him if needed. The Emperor sent 20 Custodians to watch over Lorgar, implying that he believed 20 Custodians would be enough to kill Lorgar's Honor Guard and the Primarch if needed. Spoilers, it wasn't, but the Custodians were also taken by surprise. For more combat-focused Primarchs, like Angron, they would need more than a small squad, probably like a dozen or so. Remember, a massive advantage Primarchs get when they fight is their enemy faltering and shitting themselves when they get too close. Custodians don't feel this transhuman dread, and would be fighting at maximum efficiency and effectiveness. If Horus was able to get wounded by a Nergalite walking corpse with a special knife, then I really don't see how he would take on 12 Custodians. For Primarchs like Magnus, the Custodians would need some Sisters of Silence to have a chance. After all, Guilliman was only able to beat Magnus because of the Sisters of Silence. So overall, the Custodian Guard are very, very powerful, easily killing Space Marines and pretty much everything else. They are about 5 times better at killing demons than a Grey Knight, and only with a relatively few amount of them, they could probably kill a Primarch. I mean, just look at the Telemon Heavy Dreadnought. 2 of those and a Primarch would be on their knees. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up a Majorkill nude cosplay calendar. We are doing a 40% off clearance sale for the A3 2023. With only like 100 odd calendars left, so pick them up so I don't have to keep plugging them. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more Custodian content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.